All right, hello everyone. Hey, thank you for coming here to Azure. And it's been a long time since I've addressed the issues that are going on here at Azure, and I'd really want to be transparent in the way that with our customers, with all of you, in the way that we deal with stock and how we're basically the supply chain, what's available, how how the food is holding out, as well as the logistics of it, getting it to you, making that possible. Even though many things in the food supply are a little bit in short supply, there's definitely some things. I mean, millet, some beans, potato flakes. There's stuff that's just really hard to get right now. However, we've done really well in developing those relationships and getting the food in stock and to our customers. I mean, yes, we still have some out of stocks, but our out of stocks are actually less than our vendors are right now. So I'm pretty proud of the job that our purchasing team and our logistics team has done, as well as our processors over at the flour mill and packaging, to get the food ready and available here at Azure. I think we've done as good as any company could expect to do in that, which is much better than we were doing, a year ago. And so I'm very proud of that. The other question that comes up frequently is logistics. How come our deliveries are inconsistent in time? How come there's been delays on routes? How come my delivery's early? Why did it come Monday this time instead of Wednesday? So I'd like to spend most of our time addressing that. So this is a little bit of a complex subject, and so I just want to, bear with me if you will, but this is what we had to innovate in our logistics department. So just before the pandemic outbreak and when things really changed in the purchasing habits and the way things worked here at Azure, we had come up with a plan for everything basically east of the Rocky Mountains. So if we cut a line down there, everything east, and we put it on what we call a continuous route model. And basically what that means is where one route ends, the next one begins. We don't go back to a central hub like we were doing before. So before we had a hub up in here, and we drive all down, all over out of that hub in different directions for different routes, and another one here, and so on. So this model leaves the truck basically, instead of having drive back, leaves it basically in place for the next route. And we send, which we've done for a long time, we send what we call shuttle routes out from Oregon to wherever that truck location is at. So that change happened just right before everything broke loose in March. And I can't say that it was anything but providential. I mean, we've been doing this for years and years. Why didn't we think of it many years ago? I don't know. But we thought of it right at this time, and it was nothing less than providential, because there is no way that we could have possibly innovated enough to use the old method and still get everybody their product delivered, which I'm very proud that we were actually able to do. Can't say there weren't some that were late. Can't say that there weren't, that we didn't have to scramble sometimes, but we did get everything delivered this entire time. Originally, each one of these colors on the map was to last that was a route that lasted 1 week, and it filled up basically one truck. So now come in the big changes, and no longer can we do this in 1 week, and most of these no longer can be held by one truck. So now we have to innovate. So what are we going to do? So we came up with 3 scenarios. So if a route is too full to fit on one truck, we may send 2 trucks. And if we're sending 2 trucks, One will start at the beginning of the route, and the other will start in the middle of the route. Both of those trucks will start at the beginning of the week. If it had been one truck, what would have been somewhere around Wednesday delivery now is on truck number 2 and becomes a Monday delivery. So the bottom line to the drops or the customers is that basically at the beginning of the route he starts on time. He starts Monday just like he pretty much should have. He slowly gets later as he moves back because he's got more to deliver. He can't do it as fast as he used to. And then in the middle of the route, suddenly you have truck 2, so you're back on a Monday delivery. And then so it's early, and then eventually he gets later, and by the end of the route, it's back to just about on time. So the net result is that the folks in the middle of the route, you get a little bit late delivery, way early delivery, and then back to close to a little bit early, and then again about on time delivery. So that's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2 is when we actually put more than one truckload on one truck and driver. So in that case, he starts out delivering, he unloads a load, he gets another truck that came across the country and met him. They transload, in other words, move the product from one trailer to the next, and then he continues delivering. In that case, the beginning of the route starts out on time. We may even try to push a little early if possible, but usually it's our first thing Monday morning before we can get it there. And then it slowly gets late, a little later throughout the week, because he's got more to deliver than he would have had it just been one truck. More product to huck, it takes a little bit more time. So he slowly gets later throughout the rest of the route. So both of the scenarios, number 1 and number 2, can both work on regular routes as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the continuous routes, but this route, starts here and ends up here. We can send one truck down this far, and truck 2 starts here, or we can transload somewhere in the middle. So with scenario number 3, this can only happen on continuous routes. It can't happen on our regular West Coast routes. So in a scenario 3, because the route ends pretty much where the next one begins, if it's just a little bit overweight, there's only a few drops that make it too full for one truck, we simply back those off onto the next route. So instead of, Peach ending in Birmingham area, it ends in Atlanta area, and the drops between there now become on Peach instead of on Cedar. So the cool part about that is that we don't end up with little shreds of trucks, what we used to call pallets ahead, where we had to send a pallet common carrier or something, and it was really hard for the drivers and really hard to keep the product in good shape. So that no longer happens. But what does happen, your end of the route drops, they would normally be on Friday. They now get pushed into the next week, but they get delivered on Monday. The cool part about that is the cutoff date for that, it becomes later, so you can change your order, add to your order, plus your order gets pulled a week later, so you get up to 4 days fresher product. So that's the cool part about that. And it works really, really well. But again, each one of these things create, in this case, it creates a late delivery, but yet you have more time for your cutoff. So it's not late for your new cutoff, but it is late for what you were expecting by over a weekend typically. So in some cases, we might actually, in fact we did just this last week, do all 3 of these scenarios in one route. So this peach route right here, this route ended up having 3 trucks full of product, plus just a little bit too much for 3 trucks. So we ended up doing all 3. We had one driver started here. He delivered, transloaded, got another load. Then we had another driver deliver the 3rd load, starting on Monday again. So the people in here were on time. In the middle became a little bit late. And then here towards the end became early. So everyone up there got earlier delivery, except the last few drops that we had to cut off. I think it was only 2 or 3 drops, but had to be cut off and moved to the Lily route. So in that case, all 3 of those scenarios happened. But if next month we don't have to do that, and they become 2 trucks again, and that's the issue with some of these inconsistencies that we're dealing with, then maybe we have 2 trucks, but the cutoff between that changes in location. And sometimes we don't have much spare. We can't move it a drop. If we have 3 full trucks, we can't move it from the spot where the truck's full. We can't even move by 1 drop. We have no choice in order to keep the truck legal going across the country. So we have to cut it off at a specific drop. So next time that happens just a little bit differently based on the delivery patterns, you go from a later in the week delivery to an earlier week, like a Wednesday or Thursday delivery to a Monday delivery, or vice versa. So that's where the inconsistencies come in. So I wish that I could just come up and say, hey, we've got this completely handled, it'll never happen again. But that's not the case. As long as we have this inconsistent, maybe this inconsistent world situation, I don't think that we can reroute. At some point in time, we will reroute and make this more consistent again. But until that happens, we can't really do that. But what we are getting better at, we've hired a new person in logistics just to communicate with customers. So what our real goal is to get really good at the communication so you know exactly when to expect your order, at least ahead of time, at least as soon as we get the orders in and cut off. Then we know exactly where we're going to be as far as weight goes, and we will get out the schedules to the best of our ability. Not saying that something can't happen, snowstorms, flat tires, whatever, that can delay things, but it should be really close. So in order to be the very most consistent possible, what works the best is that we have the least amount of miles to deliver the most product. In other words, the most dense sales. And where we have the most dense sales, we end up having the most consistent deliveries. Less miles to run. It's a lot easier to put the trucks. They don't have to travel near as far. And it becomes a lot more consistent. So as we get more dense deliveries, in other words, more people ordering in the various local areas throughout the country, then that really helps to do that. So what would be awesome is if you tell your friends and neighbors in your communities about Azure, and we create more sales within your local community, and that will definitely help in the long run to get us more consistent delivery times. Not in the short term, we're kind of, we're running this innovative method anyway, so until we stabilize, we can't really change it that much anyway. So it's a great time to tell your friends and neighbors. We do have the Share Azure program where there's actually a reward for doing that. And I do want to thank everyone who has been using that. Our top referrer has referred 1,349 people to Azure. So thank you to all of you that have done that, and I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and hey, thanks for helping us to be a better company, to be more environmentally conscious, and save a lot of food miles in delivering your product, and be better at what we do. And thank you for being a part of the Azure family.